is always a common question I get. A lot of people are always stressed out about the depth on these shower valves. And I'm here to tell you, this particular setup is really simple and it's almost kind of foolproof, because you almost, unless you're going to have like a ridiculously thick finished wall where you're doing mud bed walls, and I don't even know, maybe you used 1.5 inch granite or something like that, then maybe you might be able to be a little bit confused. But when it comes just regular tile and regular 1/2 inch backer board, you'll be able to set this right into place without any issues. It doesn't matter what your thin set layer is, as long as you're not going over, you know, 3/8 of an inch worth of thin set, you should be good shape. So on a normal situation, you have 1/2 inch backer, you got 3/8 inch tile. I would say 90% of the tile out there is 3/8 of an inch thick. That's what this is. And you would normally have between 1/8 and 1/4 inch of thin set. So right here, we're just about a little bit over 3/4, we're about 13/16. So with the thin set, so 3/16 inch worth of thin set, you'd be at 1 inch. And say if you had a really thick coated thin set, maybe you'd be at 1 1/8 inch. So 1 1/8 inch is the max, but it really doesn't matter, because the way that this is installed and the variance that you have for tile, it's going to be very simple. Take a piece of block, you know, this is a 2x8, you can use a 2x6. That'd be sufficient. I mean, your main concern is just being able to screw this into place. So this is a regular 2x4 wall, and there's drywall behind here. This is just going to set right up against the back of that wall. You're going to set your valve into place, and you're going to be at the right depth. This is going to allow you to be able to be within 3/8 of an inch of whatever your tile thickness is. So looking at this, this is really going to give you the variance. This plaster guard here is basically the indication of where you want your finished wall to be, but you have all this flexibility within this same area. You can actually be back a little bit further and be fine. And in a lot of ways, it's a little bit safer in some ways to be behind the wall rather than too far out. The worst thing that can happen is just being too far out of the wall, and then your escutcheon plate won't cover. But if you just have a regular 2x4 wall, stick a 2x material to the back of the wall, that pushes us 2 inches back from the front of our framing. And then if we have 1 1/8 inch worth of finished wall, we're going to be at a correct depth. You can actually even be 1.5 inches outside of this rough framing and still be okay. So this really takes the confusion out of setting the depth of this, because in a normal circumstance with regular tile, you just do this and you'll be in good shape. Okay, so as far as the height, this is really personal preference. You know, it really depends on how tall you are too. I mean, it honestly does not matter where you put that shower valve. Now, when you have a tub spout, there are some requirements of how far from the bottom of your valve to the bottom of where your tub support comes out. But since this is a shower, it's really whatever you want to do. I usually like to have mine around 45 to 48 inches, but it truly is up to you and what your tile design might be and what you're going to do. So we're just going to set ours like 46 inches, I think. I think that'll be sufficient to be at a decent height to turn it on and off. So that's 46 there. And I'm just going to use a 2x8 blocker. This is going to allow me to set that valve very easily at the right distance. As long as that's back here, we're basically 2 inches behind our rough framing, and that's going to set us up for success on our valve. So let me take off my little plaster guard here. This is going to be getting away from me to put my screws in. Okay, so 18 to the center. So that's right to the center. This little plaster guard is really made for thin walls, but it also helps to gauge the thickness of your wall. So just looking at this, you had your backer board and your tile. As long as you're within 3/8 of an inch, out or behind this plaster guard, you'll be in good shape. So as you can see, I'm about 1/4 inch, but by the time I get that thin set on there, yeah, I'm 1/4 inch. So by the time I get the thin set on, I'll be completely even with it. But again, I could be out 3/8 of an inch from the front of this and still be in good shape. So that's why I'm saying that you can pretty much just set this valve right on this 2x8 blocking, be in the right depth. You don't have any concerns about, you know, the thickness of your wall not working out. Now, when you do a thin wall, if you're doing like an acrylic tub surround, that's a different story. This needs to be right up to the back of your thin wall. Your thin wall goes over top of this. So this would need to be even with your rough framing or with your backer board if you have any for that. So a thin wall, it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more accurate as far as depth, but when it comes to a towel installation, this doesn't get much more simple than this.